Plenty of good news for the New Orleans Saints as they get back to the practice field on this Wednesday. Welcome into the Saints Playoff Report with John DeShazier. I'm Sean Kelley. Our first look at the Saints practicing in preparation for Sunday's divisional round game against the Eagles. And John, all eyes open and wide and happy as we got our first look at that Saints offensive line.
Yeah, main thing is those guys, everybody back on the practice field. Left tackle Terron Armstead, our reserve lineman Jamon Bushrod back on the field. Left guard Andrews Pete back on the field. Right guard Larry Warford. And we know center Max Unger and also right tackle Ryan Ramczyk were in practice last week. Didn't do a whole lot because, they were nicked up and there weren't a whole lot of bodies to spread around. But it was good to see all of those guys back on the field because it makes you feel like the Saints are back to full health.
I agree. We didn't get to see much of practice today, enough to have a look at that. And then Terron Armstead after practice today didn't give us much more about his availability, but did talk about possibly playing on Sunday.
It's been a tricky injury. Some things don't bother me at all. Some things bother me more. So it's hard to put a percentage on it. I feel pretty good, though. I'm doing a lot better.
You're a guy who's a gamer. You get a sense of you're going to play?
That's what I'm working towards. That's the goal. That's been the goal. Trying to get to feeling as best as I possibly can and go out there and do my job. So if I can do that, if I feel like I can be functional and produce, I'll play for sure.
Of course, obviously, John and I are excited. You're excited, too, about this news. Probably no one's more excited than Saints quarterback Drew Brees.
Yeah, they protect him. That's the wall that gives Drew Brees the opportunity to throw the football. They give him the time. They open up the holes for the running game. So those guys, critical to everything the Saints do, and they always have been.
Yeah, Brees also agrees that it's great news to start off this week of work with those guys back all in front of him.
Oh, listen, and they're the heart and soul, They're those guys set the tone. They set the tempo for every game. Obviously, it begins and ends with them, and everything that we do as an offense. So, the last couple of weeks, I think anytime you have guys that are banged up, it's difficult, especially since you don't really carry that many, offensive linemen. And so guys have to be flexible, man, and they're such a durable group, playing with a lot of dents and dings, and yet, man, they battled through. It shows their toughness, and I think these last 2 weeks have been really beneficial for them. Just a lot of guys to be on the mend and come out feeling a lot better than they did 3 weeks ago.
We may as well stay with the Saints quarterback who talked to the media after practice today. This is his media session on Wednesday, and Drew Brees will face an Eagles secondary that will probably look drastically different than the one he faced back in November.
Well, the Eagles were missing a starting cornerback going into the game who had gotten injured for the season before they even got here. Then during the game, they were playing with a couple of guys who were signed off the practice squad recently. Now, since that game, both of those guys back to where probably they are better a fit. One of them back on the practice squad, and also one of them has been released since then. So they're back to health a little bit in that secondary. They got to be feeling pretty good about what they had back there.
Yeah, and Brees echoed those thoughts and the challenge that's different here in this particular setup.
Well, every game plan or every team they play is very game plan specific. Jim Schwartz has done a great job with that defense, since he's been there. And obviously they've had a lot of guys banged up this year, and which he deserves even more credit. Done a phenomenal job with the way that they've had to, shift and move at times, and a lot of guys playing different positions and being shuffled around. But I think they've done a great job with it. When we played them early in the season, they just lost one of their corners, and so they had to shuffle, and then they lost one or two in the game. So I think you see them over the last 4 or 5 weeks, coming into their own. Again, each team they play, there's a different game plan, but whatever they do, they do it well, they execute it well.
Of course, we all know one of the members of that secondary. That's Malcolm Jenkins. Drew Brees talked about Malcolm as well, and we'll hear about that and his thoughts on Darren Sproles as this week progresses. Those are two names that are quite familiar, obviously, to all of us who follow the black and gold, and, of course, their former teammates still with the New Orleans franchise. Lots more to cover as we ramp up to that 3:40 Central Time kickoff on Sunday. Saints and Eagles in that prime afternoon time slot in the divisional round, and we'll have it all for you here at NewOrleansSaints.com. For John DeShazier, I'm Sean Kelley. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.